Chapter 1572. Gu Mengmeng lowered her body and said, "So, I can only wait. Wait until 1,000 years later, when someone accidentally transmigrated like me, and coincidentally, she is willing to help me gather the 7 treasures to save Snake and Gregory." Samuel walked behind Wang Xiaoxin, held her hand and kissed the back of it, saying, "The messenger of the beast deity that you chose is not as smart as you." Wang Xiaoxin looked at him reproachfully, retracted her hand and pinched his waist, then walked to Gu Mengmeng's side and said, "Do you really think that you accidentally transmigrated and then coincidentally gathered the 7 treasures?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She frowned slightly and shook her head instinctively. She could not figure out what was going on, but looking at Wang Xiaoxin's expression and listening to her words, she felt that it was not a coincidence. In this world, all coincidences are meticulously arranged by others. Wang Xiaoxin lowered her head and said bitterly, "Ever since you met Snake, you have already pushed the wheel of fate that I set. From the tear of the beast deity to the kiss of the ocean, then to the other 5 treasures, have you never felt as if there was a pair of hands pushing you forward, forcing you to do so?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. Every time she went to search for the 7 treasures, it was rarely voluntary. The tear of the beast deity was forcefully given to her by Snake to save her. The kiss of the ocean was to cure Qishuan's poison. Every time, there seemed to be a reason for it, just like what Wang Xiaoxin said. It was as if there was a pair of hands pushing her forward from behind. "But, Snake is your biological son, how could you bear to part with him?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Wang Xiaoxin in disbelief. She really could not understand. She clearly knew what Snake would have to face in order to obtain the tear of the beast deity. How could this mother be so heartless? Wang Xiaoxin did not seem surprised by Gu Mengmeng's question, so she smiled and replied, "Don't you know? In the beast world, only one's partner is a family. Son, he is your male, a member of your family, not mine. As his mother, the only thing I can do for him is to try my best to win your favor, so I dragged you to watch television with me, to let you see how well he treats you. Just now, I tried to persuade you to give up on Elvis and Leah, to stay in the modern world and live with him. Unfortunately, your choice is not him. The root of his suffering is that he is not good enough, at least not good enough for you to fall in love with him regardless of everything." Gu Mengmeng's heart felt as if it was being crushed by a millstone. She shook her head and said, "No, you are wrong. There is nothing wrong with Snake. He is very good, very good. He's very good, so why don't you want him?" Wang Xiaoxin didn't answer but asked back. Gu Mengmeng choked and remained silent for a long while. Then, she said plainly, "I will wait for him." She had a long 1,000 years to think about what kind of feelings she had for Snake. As for Gregory, she had to slowly think about how she was going to face the 2 of them after 1,000 years. Wang Xiaoxin didn't persist. She just nodded and said, "With these words of yours, I won't disappoint my silly son's infatuation. Aren't you curious, why am I there?" Gu Mengmeng paused for a moment before her lips curled upwards unknowingly. She looked at Leah and asked with a smile, "You?" Leah nodded. "Maybe you don't believe me, but Cole's tear of the beast deity is with me." Gu Mengmeng frowned, not understanding. Chapter 1574. Why would he do that? Gu Mengmeng did not understand. Her first reaction was, he is already dead, what other scheme is there? How does he want to harm you? Does he mean that he will not let you off even in death? Leah held Gu Mengmeng's shoulders with both hands to calm her down. He said calmly, "No, it is not to harm me. It is to help me become the Beast King and protect my heart. This is the last thing he did for you. He asked me not to say anything and I agreed, but he is still my biological brother. No matter how twisted he is, no matter how unbearable he is, at least this matter. I don't want you to misunderstand him." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head in silence and said, "Cole, he seems to be purposely provoking me." Leah chuckled and asked, "How did you think of that?" Gu Mengmeng said, "Before he died, he told me how to break the bewitching spell between him and Qi Xian. It was as if he wanted me to kill him without any worries. I was so angry at that time, but now that I think about it, it seems like he was purposely provoking me." Leah nodded and admitted, "Yes, he's right. He is really gifted and blessed by the heavens when it comes to provoking your hatred. Gu Meng Meng hesitated for a while before looking up at Leah and asking, "Did I kill the wrong person?" "No." Leah answered without hesitation. He hugged Gu Meng Meng and said, he was tired of living and only wished for death. Dying in your hands is already considered as seeking benevolence. Although to you, he may no longer be a heinous person, but to others in the beast world, he is still guilty of many crimes. By killing him, you have gotten rid of a scourge for the people. Gu Meng Meng touched the position of her heart and said, "But, I still feel very uncomfortable. I did it because he killed you and Elvis, in a fit of anger, but now that you two are fine and he is dead, I feel like I killed a good citizen by mistake." Leah thought for a while and said, "Cole? Good citizen? It can't be, although he had his reasons. It is true that he tortured me all those years. And Elvis's tragic childhood also has something to do with him. Qi Xian was separated from your own flesh and blood, causing you to cry so miserably. It is also true. Any one of them is enough to be a reason to kill him." Leah placed Gu Meng Meng into Elvis's arms and held her shoulders with both hands. He looked straight into her eyes and said, "I told you what Cole had done not to make you feel guilty, but to make you not hate him anymore. I have hated him for more than 10 years. I know how painful it is to hate someone. I don't want you to experience this pain, so, since he is already dead, then all the past will be written off, and the past will be forgotten. Forgive him and let yourself go, okay?" Gu Meng Meng nodded slightly and said, "All right, I don't hate him. Let bygones be bygones. Good girl." Leah smiled and nodded. Then, he kissed Gu Meng Meng's cheek and said, "There's one more thing that I have to tell you in advance." "What?" Leah and Elvis exchanged glances before he slowly opened his mouth and said, "The 7 treasures have been gathered and the doors of time and space have been opened. So the tear of the beast deity and love of the sky in your body are all gone. You don't have the powers of a beast king now. Just like when you transmigrated here, you are just a weak little female. So, if you meet with anything in the future, you cannot rush forward anymore. You have to hide behind Elvis and me obediently, understand?" Aside from the topic, this was Cole's last wish, but he could not get it. He wanted Gu Meng Meng to love him, but Gu Meng Meng did not love him. He wanted Gu Meng Meng to hate him, but Leah did not allow it. He wanted Gu Meng Meng to remember him, but how long could a stranger who did not love or hate him remember him? Chapter 1575. Gu Meng Meng tried to release her pressure and there was indeed nothing left. She chuckled and said helplessly, "All right, the image of a grown woman is not suitable for me. Moreover, my 2 men are already beast kings, what's the use of pressure?" Li's mood improved slightly when he saw that Gu Meng Meng was not disappointed, but there was a more important problem, that was, the love of the sky is also gone, so you will definitely be in a lot of pain when giving birth to this child. So, Gu Meng Meng clutched her stomach and glared at him. "I won't say anything else, but if you dare to have any ideas on my stomach, I will fight you to the death." He knew it would be like this. Leah sighed helplessly and said, "I know how much you treasure this child, how would I dare to have any ideas on her? What I want to say is, can't we see the situation of your era in the illusion realm? Since you are a beast deity now, can you send me into the illusion realm too and let me learn some childbirth-related medical skills? This way, when you give birth, your pain can be reduced to the greatest extent." Gu Meng Meng finally relaxed when she heard Li's words. She nodded slowly and said, "Oh, if that's the case, you should have said so earlier, you scared me." Leah poked Gu Meng Meng's little head and said, "You didn't even listen to what I said to Elvis. We already said that we will not do anything that would make you sad a second time." Gu Meng Meng knew that she was being too petty, so she smiled and said, "How could that be? I've taken your words to heart, really." "Little liar." Leah scolded her, but his eyes were smiling. At least, she kept her promise of not abandoning them. As long as she did this, they would not mind how many times she lied to them about other things. Considering Gu Meng Meng's health, Leah did not immediately enter the illusion realm again, but started to cook first. Once they entered the illusion realm, they would unknowingly be in it for a few days, and Gu Meng Meng was pregnant now, so she could not be hungry. No matter what, he had to let her eat her fill first. Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng by the fire pit, intending to enter the cave to clean up and dispose of Cole's corpse, so that Gu Meng Meng would not feel uncomfortable. But once they entered the cave, they realized that there was not even a trace of blood on the floor, not to mention Cole's corpse. Elvis frowned and called out, "Leah." Leah did not understand, so he put down the spatula in his hands and walked in. Seeing the situation in front of him, he exclaimed, "Eh?" Although Gu Meng Meng was against it and did not want to see Cole's corpse, she could not resist her curiosity and followed in. A small tree grew where Cole's corpse was originally placed. It was about half the height of a human and its leaves glowed with a strange light, like cold jade. Gu Meng Meng placed her fingers on it lightly, the feeling was so familiar. "Soul of the forest?" Gu Meng Meng blurted. Elvis and Leah looked at each other for a moment and nodded. "This is Snake's old residence, it's only natural for his soul to return here." It seemed like Cole had become nourishment for the soul of the forest and was completely absorbed and digested. That's right, why would someone like Snake allow outsiders to stay in his cave? That's good too, it's a clean break. Lee's hand also lightly touched the trunk of the small tree. He smiled and nodded. "But the soul of the forest is a treasure, it cannot be seen in the next 1,000 years. Now that Snake and Whales are both gone, this Snake King Valley, who will guard it?" Aside from the topic. Chapter 1576. I haven't thought about it yet, let's talk about it when the time comes. Anyway, there's still some time before winter ends. Gu Meng Meng stared at the little tree in a daze. She couldn't tell if this little tree was Snake or Cole in her eyes. Shaking her head, Gu Meng Meng said, "Let's go out, this room shall be his room." Elvis and Leah didn't have any objections and just carried Gu Meng Meng into the cave outside. Without the powers of a beast king, Gu Meng Meng's ability to withstand the cold plummeted. Leah had no choice but to light a few more braziers in the cave to keep her warm, while Elvis and Leah took turns to warm her abdomen in their original forms. This warmth lasted for an entire winter. Gu Meng Meng's abdomen didn't grow after that time and remained at the same level as her chest. This made Gu Meng Meng a little worried. After all, she had killed someone and transmigrated. This torment, she didn't know if this child was still around. If she died in the womb, the little fellow in her abdomen seemed to have sensed her mother's thoughts and didn't want to die, without knowing why, so she moved her little feet helplessly, reminding her that she was still alive. This made Gu Meng Meng feel much more at ease. Elvis and Leah, who were always on tenterhooks but didn't dare to say anything, also calmed down. The snow that sealed the entrance of the cave was scattered from the outside. Gu Meng Meng was a little surprised. This was the Snake King Valley and no one should know that Whales had already left. Moreover, she had entered with great fanfare before winter arrived. In the eyes of the people in the beast world, there should be 3 beast kings, Gu Meng Meng, Cole and Elvis, as well as 2 5th-level beasts, Little Shit and Leah, guarding this place. Attacking the Snake King Valley at this time? Wasn't that the same as entering the toilet with a lantern, seeking death? Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng while Leah instantly flashed his sharp claws in front of Elvis. He had his usual faint smile on his face, just like a mask. But when they saw who it was, everyone was stunned. "Qixuan? Why are you here at this time?" Gu Meng Meng jumped down from Elvis's arms and walked to Qixuan's side. She patted the snow off his body and said with some heartache, "It's almost winter but the snow hasn't stopped. It must be very cold, don't tell me something happened to Zacharias?" Qixuan shook his head and remained silent for a moment before saying, "Something happened to him, right?" Qixuan didn't understand. "Cole." Qixuan stared straight at Gu Meng Meng, waiting for her answer. Under Qixuan's gaze, Gu Meng Meng nodded. I killed him." Qixuan's expression was indecipherable. He just hugged Gu Meng Meng and said, "I knew this day would come. But Mum, I still feel very uncomfortable." Qixuan. Chapter 1577. He was the one who told me that it doesn't matter if I hurt others or myself. The bottom line is to not let you cry. So when you cried, I knew I was wrong. I would rather brandish my claws at him, bare my fangs and ignore my reliance on him than let you shed a single tear. Qi Xian hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly. He frowned and said to Gu Mengmeng, "Mother, you don't know, right? When I resolutely abandoned him and returned to your side, he looked at me with approval and pride that he had never shown before. I clearly saw the message, 'You are indeed the Qi Xian I raised,' in his eyes. How ironic is that? The person you hate to the core is admiring an ingrate who abandoned him for you." Gu Mengmeng patted Qi Xuan's back lightly and said, "Sorry, mother has made things difficult for you." Qi Xian shook his head and said, "You are my mother. You are always right." Gu Mengmeng sighed and did not know what to say. "Mother, where is he? Can you let me see him one last time?" Qi Xuan's tone was pleading. Gu Mengmeng nodded and led Qi Xian into the cave. She pointed at the small tree and said, "He is here, he has merged with this small tree." Qi Xian knelt by the tree and kowtowed 3 times. "I am not fated to call you Father Beast, but I still thank you for raising me. I will take good care of my mother and will never let her cry because of me again, so, don't worry." Just as he finished speaking, a leaf floated down from the tree branch and landed between Qi Xuan's brows. In the blink of an eye, it sank into his skin. This. Gu Mengmeng was puzzled. Leah leaned against the entrance of the cave and could not help but laugh when he saw this scene. "All right, don't bother thinking about it anymore. He has already chosen the person guarding the soul of the forest." "What? No, Qi Xian is only a second-level beast, how can he guard it?" Gu Mengmeng was really worried. Once the news of the soul of the forest being here was leaked, the beast world would be in chaos. Gu Mengmeng could not be at ease leaving Qi Xian in such a position. Leah chuckled and asked, "Have you forgotten how much effort we had to put in to obtain the soul of the forest in Zacharias? Elvis and I almost died there. In the entire beast world, how many could match up to Elvis and I in battle?" But Gu Mengmeng was still worried. Qi Xian hugged Gu Mengmeng and looked at the little tree. "Mum, you were afraid that he would lead me astray in the past, so you didn't let me near him. Now I'm afraid that he won't have the chance to mislead me anymore. So, let me accompany him, take it as repayment for his kindness in raising me. After all, I'm a wolf. Not repaying kindness isn't the style of our wolf clan." As Qi Xian spoke, he looked at Elvis, as if waiting for Elvis to speak up for him. In the end, Elvis shrugged his shoulders and laughed coldly. "There's no use looking at me. I'm afraid of my wife." Qi Xian looked at Elvis with a speechless expression and said, "You're really acting so righteously." Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and raised his chin. "I'm afraid of my wife, but I'm proud." Gu Mengmeng pinched Elvis, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Don't spout nonsense in front of the children." Chapter 1578. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and gently caressed Qi Xuan's little face. "My son has grown up and has his own views and sense of right and wrong. I can no longer impose my own subjective views on him." "Mum," Gu Mengmeng held Qi Xuan's little hand and patted it. "Little Xian, go ahead and do what you want to do. Mum supports you." Qi Xian didn't expect Gu Mengmeng to be so easy to talk to. He felt very uneasy and even thought that if Gu Mengmeng cried because of this, he would immediately surrender. No matter what he thought, he couldn't let his mother cry one more time. But his mum actually said she would support him this time. "Thank you, Mum." Qi Xian hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly. The turbid air that had been pressing against his chest for a long time was finally released at this moment. The family of 4 enjoyed about 10 days of warm time. On the 11th day, the snow sealing the cave had completely melted. This meant that winter was over. Although Gu Mengmeng was still the saintess of the snake tribe, without Snake's protection mark, she could no longer command the snake tribe. The members of the snake tribe still respected her, but they would no longer gather around her. So, as the snake tribe awoke from their hibernation, they gradually swam out of the Snake King Valley. Without words, their instincts told them that their Snake King and that demigod had already left. Without the Snake King Valley, they would only become a target for everyone, a piece of juicy meat in everyone's eyes. If they did not leave, they would not have the ability to protect themselves. But this was also good. This way, they would no longer have to worry about news of the soul of the forest being leaked. Let's go too. I still need to go to a few more places and arrange for some people to guard the 7 treasures. Gu Mengmeng snuggled in Elvis's arms. She placed one hand on her stomach and the other gently tugged at Qi Xian. Qi Xian smiled, as if he was a child who had grown up overnight. He was mature and steady, not letting Gu Mengmeng worry. "Mum, let me send you out." "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng still could not bear to part with this son. But since she had already said she would support him, she had to learn to let go. After leaving the cave, Gu Mengmeng was a little stunned. She could not believe everything in front of her. This was practically Zacharias in the past. Crimson vines had covered the entire valley at some point in time. They looked tender and beautiful like fire, but they exuded a dangerous aura. Gu Mengmeng's hand that was caressing her tummy tightened. Back then, Elvis and Leah had almost been wrapped up into 2 silkworms and she had risked her life to save them. Now, not only did she lose the tear of the beast deity, she was also pregnant. How was she going to get out? Leah easily saw through Gu Mengmeng's thoughts. He tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose and said, "Snake's blood is hidden in these vines. Do you think he would hurt you?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She walked down from Elvis's arms doubtfully and reached out to touch the blood-colored vines. A small string of blood vines wrapped around Gu Mengmeng's wrist gently and carefully, following the back of her hand to wrap around her ring finger. Then, the vines broke and blood flowed onto Gu Mengmeng's ring finger. Within a breath's time, the blood had seeped into Gu Mengmeng's skin, forming a red tattoo. It was in the shape of a small snake, coiling around Gu Mengmeng's finger like a ring. Chapter 1579. He said he would only propose once, and that meant it. Even if she did not agree, he still put the ring on her finger. There was no other communication, but Gu Mengmeng could hear Snake telling her in a tone that did not allow anyone to interfere, "Hold on to this mark for now, wait for me to come back and put the real ring on your finger personally. If you dare to take it off, I will kill Elvis and Leah." She walked into the area of the blood vines boldly. Indeed, the once vicious vines were now as obedient as domestic pets. Elvis pulled Gu Mengmeng back into his arms and said, "Winter has just ended and the ground is cold. You are pregnant, don't walk off by yourself." Gu Mengmeng did not struggle. Her body was much weaker than when she had the tear of the beast deity, so she stayed in Elvis's arms obediently, resting her little head on his shoulder. She smiled and asked, "I still remember that time in Zacharias. That blood vine cut my palm and only stopped attacking when it touched my blood. Do you think it was because little shit is close to me and recognized me, so he showed mercy?" Leah sneered and replied, "Before Wabi-I awakened, his memories were completely separated from Whale's. How could he recognize you? It should be because you have snake's blood in your body and he recognized his own son, so he stopped." Gu Mengmeng pondered for a while, then nodded in agreement and said, "Then when the next messenger of the beast deity comes, won't it be very dangerous?" Snake's bad temper, he even beat up his own father for over 800 years. The vines rustled, not knowing if they were unhappy that Gu Mengmeng said Wabi-I had a bad temper or that Gu Mengmeng said Wabi-I was his father. Anyway, they were very unhappy. Gu Mengmeng stuck out her tongue and laughed, saying, "Don't say it if you don't want to say it. Why are you so fierce? I am pregnant and can't take scares. Don't scare me, I will cry." The vines instantly stopped. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "I never expected that you arrogant beast kings would actually cower in the hands of a little girl like me. Huh, why do I feel a sense of satisfaction from a vile person?" Leah poked Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "You also know you are a vile person?" You only know how to use your tears to scare us. But, just say it. If you really dare to cry, I won't forgive you." Gu Mengmeng smiled sweetly and was not angry at all. She snuggled back into Elvis's neck, her mood exceptionally good. When they reached the entrance of the Snake King Valley, Qi stopped in his tracks and said, "Mom, I will take over the stray beast camp as the stray beast young master. My original territory had been snatched away by Kanwu, so I couldn't possibly fight with my own younger brother over the territory, nor was I willing to leave the Snake King Valley, so I would move the stray beast camp outside the Snake King Valley. The valley is guarded by the blood-red vines, and I will lead the stray beasts to suppress the situation outside. It will definitely be safe. As for the new messenger of the beast deity that you're worried about after 1,000 years, let's leave it to fate then. I think you don't have to think too much about it. Moreover, Snake is more anxious to see you than anyone else. If it was really someone you sent, not only would he not make things difficult for you, he might even take the initiative to pluck that tree and send it to them." Gu Mengmeng thought about it. Indeed, this was something Snake would do. Hugging her own son, Gu Mengmeng reminded him, "No matter what happens, don't bear it alone. You still have 3 brothers, your father the Wolf King and Daddy Leah the Fox King. Most importantly, you still have a mother who is the beast deity. Understand?" Digression, today's update has ended. Chapter 1580. Qi smiled and nodded. "Yeah, he taught me how to make use of all the resources to achieve my goals. Moreover, I know how to bully others the best." Gu Mengmeng knew who the Qi was referring to but did not say it out loud. Death was like an extinguished lamp. She promised Leah to let go of all grudges and not hate him or view him as an enemy. After parting ways with Qi, Gu Mengmeng returned to Sauter. The entire Wolf clan and Fox clan were gathered here. Putting aside the Wolf clan, the Fox clan was a major event due to the change of the Beast King. If Leah did not return to reorganize things, there would definitely be a lot of trouble. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng would have to die after the succession of the beast deity. Not mentioning others, Gu Mengmeng would definitely not feel at ease if she did not console Sandy. Hence, it was a long and arduous journey. Although Gu Mengmeng was no longer a beast king, her 2 legs were originally just a decoration. Elvis and Leah had never expected her to use her own legs to guide her on any path. In the past, they had to carry her. Now that she was pregnant, it was even more impossible for them to let her walk on her own. Hence, although they had to rest more often to take care of Gu Mengmeng's easily fatigued body, Leah was also a beast king now and his traveling speed had increased significantly. Hence, when they returned to Sauter, they were not much slower than before. Sandy and her family were waiting at the city gates with Huda and Jiayu. Seeing Gu Mengmeng return from afar, nobody moved. Sandy had already pounced over and hugged Gu Mengmeng in her arms. Without a word, she started crying. Gu Mengmeng could not move from Sandy's bare hug. She could only smile foolishly. "What's the matter, my little bear bun? Who bullied you? Tell me, I will help you. You heartless one. Sob sob sob, why didn't you stay in Sauter for the winter? Ah. If you were in Sauter, I could at least accompany you. You knew?" Gu Mengmeng was a little confused. How should she put it? When those things happened, she was still in the Snake King Valley. News of the entire beast world was blocked. How did Sandy know what she had been through? Sandy said with snot and tears in his eyes, "The Fox King is dead. How can such a big thing be hidden? Don't forget, we still have a beast pet from the Snow Fox clan. Furthermore, even if Arnold didn't say anything, do you know how chaotic Sauter was during those few days?" "I don't want to know." "How can I not know?" Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy back and patted her back gently. All right, don't cry. I'm fine, aren't I?" "Nothing? Do you think I'm a fool? Do you think I don't know what kind of person Cole is? How could it be that easy to kill him? Tell me honestly, how much have you suffered? What have you suffered?" And Qi sob sob sob, "My poor little Qi, I haven't had the chance to have a daughter to mate with him. Qi is fine, he's not dead." Gu Mengmeng knew that Sandy must have thought of the connection between Qi Xian and Cole through the bewitching spell and the soul of the forest, so she said, before Cole died, he specially told me how to break the connection between him and Qi Xian. Would he be so kind? Sandy was skeptical. Chapter 1581. If he wanted Qi Xian to die, he would have done so long ago. On the contrary, he tolerated Qi Xuan's provocations and rebellious behavior because he developed feelings for him. After all, human hearts were made of flesh. If Cole had not treated Qi Xian so well, Qi Xian would not have treated him like his own father. Now that she thought about it, Gu Mengmeng felt that she might have been too extreme at that time. But Sandy did not care about all that. She just pulled Gu Mengmeng over to check on her. Seeing that she was not injured or sick, she felt more at ease. Who cares what happened to him? It's just that when I knew he was dead, the first thing I thought of was the price you would have to pay. The more I thought about it, the more flustered I became. I lived in fear for the entire winter. Afterwards, Arnold said that he could feel the birth of a new king. I guessed that there was no one else other than Leah. Only then did I feel more at ease. Aren't I fine now? Gu Mengmeng held Sandy's little hand and comforted her as they walked into the city. Congratulations to the Fox King and Queen for having a noble daughter. Arnold cupped his fists and bowed respectfully. Gu Mengmeng chuckled. Now, I am truly worthy of being addressed as Queen. Arnold, thank you for your blessings. With that, Gu Mengmeng patted Sandy's little hand. Now that Leah has become the Fox King, the Fox and Wolf tribes will become the closest of friends. So, you don't have to worry about what will happen to him, me, or anyone else. If you like him, just let him be. Sandy cleared her throat and smiled. She turned her head to look at Arnold and said, Arnold, you go back home and lie down first. I'll go back in a bit. Arnold's eyes flashed. The corners of his lips curled up uncontrollably. He replied softly, yes. Then, he turned to leave and returned to the small stone room. Leah was also smiling. He teased. Not attending. Sandy turned to look at Leah for a moment. The mighty Leah who hung on the tree in Saint Nazaire like a piece of fox skin and was on the brink of death. I don't think he has much of a future now. Leah gritted his teeth. I am the Fox King now. Aren't you afraid that I will kill your little fox in anger? Sandy hugged Gu Mengmeng's arm and said, kill him if you can. By then, I will stick to my girl every day and she will definitely coax me and ignore you. By then, even if you go to the platform of the deity's punishment and try to commit suicide, I will not let go. I will not let her save you, humph. You. Leah looked at Gu Mengmeng and took a deep breath. He smiled apologetically and said, a good man does not fight with a woman. I will tolerate you. Sandy chuckled and looked at Gu Mengmeng. Did you see that? This is what a woman should be like. You, stay at home every day like a coward and get bullied by the two of them. As she spoke, Sandy gently caressed Gu Mengmeng's tummy. My daughter-in-law is inside. She must not be as cowardly as you in the future. She had to be dignified, with the demeanor of the head of the family. From now on, the two of us have to lead by example and have the final say in the family. What is this called? Called again. Gu Mengmeng smiled and added, prenatal education. Yes. Prenatal education. Prenatal education is very important. Sandy rambled on and on. None of the males from the two families dared to interrupt. Elvis nudged Leah gently and asked softly, you actually have a day where you admit defeat? Chapter 1582. Since Arnold was still at home waiting for Sandy's arrival, Gu Mengmeng did not hold Sandy for too long and just teased her for a while before sending her off. Leah was the new king and naturally had some matters to settle. He would not stay in Sauter for long and would even die with Gu Mengmeng after Gu Mengmeng settled her affairs. In order to prevent the world from falling into chaos after the sudden disappearance of the Fox King, many things had to be settled now. But due to the change of the Fox King, Cole, who used to be Gu Mengmeng's enemy, became her partner, Leah. The relationship between the Fox King and the Wolf Clan changed from being enemies to a family. In order not to put the Beast Kings of both clans in a difficult position because of their clansmen, both parties were much more polite to each other. As time went by, they developed many true friendships. Although they were not as close as Elvis and Leah, they were still very harmonious and got along well with each other. Although Lee's methods were much gentler than Cole's, they were after all learned from the same system. Many times, they achieved the same results through different means. It was just that he cared about Gu Mengmeng's feelings. Leah was more lenient and did not use the simple and violent methods in the past. Instead, he used the carrot and stick strategy. Although it was a roundabout way, with Elvis's cooperation, the matters in Sodor did not take up too much time. Before the monsoon season ended, Leah and Elvis had already arranged everything. Oriton's injuries had already healed before winter, but because Gu Mengmeng did not stay in Sodor for the winter, he stayed in the stone castle alone as a guardian beast. There was food originally prepared by Elvis in the stone castle and it was enough for him to eat alone. But although he did not have that kind of relationship with Gu Mengmeng, he was still a member of the family. Hence, when Gu Mengmeng left Sodor, Oriton followed her. Sandy's eyes were red as she held back her tears and said, "Girl, we agreed that the one in your tummy must prioritize our son as the first partner in the future. So, after you give birth, you must come back to see me, or else. I will cry myself to death." Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy and patted her back, coaxing her gently, "All right, my little bear bun. You're already a mother, why do you still cry so much? You're still the same as when we first met. You haven't matured at all. I don't care. If you don't agree, I won't let go." Sandy's eyes were rimmed red, like a child who had to buy a toy no matter what, and Gu Mengmeng was her most beloved toy. Gu Mengmeng shook her head helplessly and said, all right, after I give birth, I will definitely bring her over to let you, my future mother-in-law, take a look, all right? Sandy stretched out her chubby little hand with her pinky and said, "Pinky promise." "All right." Gu Mengmeng also stuck out her pinky and hooked it with Sandy. "Do you believe me now?" Sandy nodded and hugged Gu Mengmeng for a long time before saying with a thick nasal voice, "Girl, take care. I'll be waiting for you in Sodor. I'll always be waiting for you." "All right." Gu Mengmeng returned a tight hug and said, "You take care too." The two females were reluctant to part and did not cry when hugging each other. But the moment Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave, the two females could no longer hold back their tears. They knew that this farewell. Chapter 1583. A month's journey was not long at all. But Gu Mengmeng could not help but feel emotional when she revisited this place. The last time she walked this path, Gregory and Little Shit were still by her side. This time, things were the same, but the people were different. Standing by the stream again, Gu Mengmeng could not help but shake her head and smile bitterly. How could she climb Moda Mountains without wings? I can't seem to keep my promises to him. Gu Mengmeng felt sad. Looking at the tallest mountain peak, she did not know where to go. Leah hugged Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and chuckled. "Silly girl, didn't someone already think of a solution for us?" "Huh?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. Lee's long and narrow eyes turned. "Hey, isn't there someone coming to fetch us now?" Gu Mengmeng glanced sideways and saw two vultures flying over. Their sizes were similar to Gregory's, but Gu Mengmeng could easily tell that it was not Gregory. The two vultures landed on the ground and bowed respectfully. "Great messenger." Gu Mengmeng narrowed her eyes. She felt that the two of them looked familiar. After thinking carefully, she recognized one of them as Miranda's current first partner, Lucas. She understood that Leah had used his identity as the Fox King to order Miranda, so her partner had no choice but to listen to Lee's orders and come to be the carriage driver. After all, he was someone else's male. It was not appropriate for Gu Mengmeng to ride on his back. Luckily, Lucas had brought a huge piece of beast skin. He wrapped Gu Meng Meng up with his claws and flew straight to the top of Moda Mountain. The other vulture brought Elvis, Leah, and Oriton to the small cave where Gu Meng Meng and Gregory had stayed for 7 days. The immense air pressure made Gu Meng Meng feel like she was about to faint. She bit the tip of her tongue lightly to keep herself awake, because she knew that the wind would stop at Moda Mountains for half a day during the dry season. If she fainted now, she would have to wait until next year to see Gregory. Forcing herself to stay awake, Gu Meng Meng finally reached the top of the mountain. The scenery was the same as last year. It was just that Gregory was no longer by her side. Gu Meng Meng squatted beside the cold spring and looked at the wings that were deep asleep at the bottom of the spring through the clear and sharp water. That was Gregory's wings. He had once brought her to swim 6,000 meters in the air, overlooking the entire Moda Mountains. For some reason, Gu Meng Meng stretched out her hand, wanting to touch that pair of wings again. But before her hand could touch the water, a gust of wind blew past, scattering the spring water. Gu Meng Meng retracted her finger and gently touched the feather on her right ear. She smiled and said, I know. The water from the 1,000-year ice hurts both the hand and the body. I can't touch it. A gentle breeze blew and the feather on Gu Meng Meng's right ear fluttered in the wind. It was like someone's faint smile, carrying a tinge of approval. Gu Meng Meng walked to one of the caves on the mountain peak. She knew that Samuel's body was originally placed on the other side, so this side should be Gregory's. Great messenger. Lucas stopped Gu Meng Meng and shook his head. He said, birds have their own pride. What he doesn't want the most is for you to see him in such a miserable state. Gu Meng Meng stopped in her tracks and looked at Lucas. After a while, she smiled and said, you are right. He doesn't want me to pity him because of his misery. Chapter 1584. Gu Meng Meng looked up at the blue sky and smiled faintly. I really came back to Moda Mountains for the dry season. Did you have a hard time waiting for me this year? Let me sing a song to console you, alright? Gu Meng Meng's reply was only a light breeze. Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and sang, Just Happened to Meet You. This was a song she had sung many times for Gregory. But back then, when she sang, he was hugging her and swaying his body along with the melody. But now, she was alone and the wind was her companion. Before she had the time to feel sad, a wave of chirping filled the air. Gu Meng Meng followed the sound. Countless birds flew up from the foot of the mountain. They were colorful and covered the sky. It was a spectacular sight. The birds spread their wings and soared, some high, some low, some left, some right. Seeing that Gu Meng Meng was looking at them, they all transformed into half-beasts and surrounded Gu Meng Meng. Then, they started singing the melody without words. This song, Gu Meng Meng had heard it before. It was the song that Grace had sung to her when he held her in his arms back then. Gu Meng Meng's eyes felt a little sore. She knew that this was the symphony Gregory had prepared for her. It was a concert only for her to listen to. This was the romance he had given her, only for her. After the song was finished, the birds scattered in all directions, just like when they came. All of this seemed to be just a dream. It was so unreal. Gu Meng Meng turned back to look at Lucas. Lucas stood beside her with a smile. This is a ceremony for the birds of Moda Mountains to congratulate their leader on his marriage. It should have been sent last year, but... Gu Meng Meng nodded to show that she understood. Last year, Gregory had broken his wings and was blinded. She was forcefully taken away by Samuel's wings. She cried her heart out and fainted in the end. Under those circumstances, it was indeed not suitable to hold this ceremony. Although Gregory was just a beast pet, he was still considered a member of her family. In the beast world, Gregory was her man. Who is the leader of Moda Mountains now? Gu Meng Meng did not want the atmosphere to be too heavy. Because Gregory had said that he liked it when she smiled. As long as she smiled, he would feel happy. So, at least on Moda Mountains, Gu Meng Meng had to maintain a smile at all times. Lucas shook his head and said, in the past, the choice of a leader was based on the response to that Lord's messenger. But last year, when we went down the mountain, we found that the messenger had disappeared. So. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, all right, bring me to see Miranda. Yes. Lucas was actually a little hesitant, but Gu Mengmeng's partner was Leah and he held Miranda's life in his hands. He really did not dare to defy Gu Mengmeng's orders. Moreover, she was someone Gregory had been protecting with all his heart. Now, Gregory was the guardian of the Moda Mountains. After wrapping Gu Mengmeng in the beast's skin, Lucas spread his wings and flew up, bringing Gu Mengmeng back to his cave. In the cave, Miranda was followed by a few small vultures. Their big black eyes were particularly cute. Miranda instinctively shrank back when she saw Gu Mengmeng, and at the same time, protected the little vulture in her arms. Chapter 1585. Do you know that Cole is dead? Gu Mengmeng asked softly. Miranda nodded. She was a snow fox and could sense the change of the Fox King through her bloodline. She did not need to witness anything personally to know. Gu Mengmeng continued, the new Fox King is Leah. Upon hearing the name that she had struggled with for half her life, Miranda was stunned for a moment and suddenly smiled. What are you smiling at? Gu Mengmeng asked calmly. Perhaps Gu Mengmeng's attitude was too easygoing, so Miranda gradually relaxed. She looked at Gu Mengmeng and still replied, in this year. I have not thought of him at all. Now that you mention it, I realized. I seem to have let him go. Gu Mengmeng smiled and nodded, saying, the stubbornness and naive infatuation when you were young. Later on, when you were in danger, you would naturally fantasize about him rescuing you like a hero. Now that you are living a blissful life and have partners who love you, they are the heroes you can easily reach. With them, you naturally do not need an imaginary hero anymore. Miranda nodded, indicating that she agreed with Gu Mengmeng's words. Gu Mengmeng reached out and held onto Miranda's wrist, saying, I was also rash in the past. Your hands, it's my fault. Miranda shook her head and said, I did not have any good intentions when I went to solder. These hands, take it as retribution. I promised Leah that everything that happened in the past will be written off and I will not hold it against him anymore. So one of the reasons I came here this time is to treat your hands. Gu Mengmeng held onto Miranda's wrists gently and slowly closed her eyes, praying silently in her heart. When she opened her eyes again, she had a gentle smile on her face and said, try moving around. Miranda looked at her own wrists in disbelief. Her beautiful eyes widened and she could not say a word for a long time. She looked up at Lucas and then reached out her hands. Lucas pulled Miranda over in excitement and scrutinized her wrists closely, unable to hide the joy on his face. He did not despise Miranda's crippled hands, but his heart ached for the excruciating pain she would feel every time the weather changed. Now that her wrists were healed, he would never see her rolling on the ground with a pale face and a head full of sweat. Thank you, Sir Envoy, for your mercy. Lucas said and was about to kneel. Gu Mengmeng pulled Lucas back and smiled. Maintain your pride as a bird and don't kneel down so easily. If you really want to thank me, perhaps you can do something else for me. I'm willing to listen to Lord Emissary's orders. Gu Mengmeng said, I want you to replace Gregory and become the new leader of Moda Mountains. Help me guard Moda Mountains, until the next messenger of the beast deity descends. Lucas frowned and said, I wonder when the next emissary will descend? Gu Mengmeng replied, about 1,000 years. Lucas said, Sir Emissary, although I don't know how to count, I know what kind of span 1,000 years is. I'm just a rank 3 orc, I won't be able to live until then. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and looked at the cub beside Miranda. Even if you don't live to that day, you still have your sons, and your sons will still have sons, your descendants will definitely live to that day. Lucas looked at Miranda, and only when he saw Miranda nod slightly did he place his right hand on his left chest, saluted, and said, as the great messenger commands, Lucas will not disappoint. Chapter 1586. Without Gregory, it was inconvenient to go in and out, so Gu Mengmeng did not really stay on Moda Mountains for the entire dry season. Instead, she asked Lucas to send them down the mountain after staying for 7 days. Gu Mengmeng stayed by the stream until the dry season ended, before setting off for the seaside with Elvis, Leah and Oriton. She had once thought that she would never set foot here again after taking the kiss of the ocean. Now that she was back, Gu Mengmeng could not help but feel as though a lifetime had passed. However, the tear of the beast deity was gone. She did not know if the kiss of the beast deity that Wang Xiaoxin had given her was still around. If everything that Wang Xiaoxin had given her was gone, then Gu Mengmeng really did not dare to go into the sea so easily. After all, little shit was not around. If she drowned, no one would be able to collect her corpse. Just as she was hesitating on how to go down, she saw a small head poking out from the surface of the sea. Only half a face was revealed, but it could not hide the clear, starry eyes. Once Gu Mengmeng met that pair of eyes, her lips would unknowingly curve upwards. Waving her hand, Gu Mengmeng shouted, "Little Fei Rui? Great messenger, it's really you." Fei Rui swiftly swam out of the sea and transformed into a human the moment he reached the shore. Fei Rui was very happy to see Gu Mengmeng, but due to the obvious animosity between Elvis and Leah, Fei Rui did not dare to approach Gu Mengmeng. He only stopped 3 steps away and twirled his fingers as he looked at Gu Mengmeng with a smile. His voice was clear and clean, like the ocean illuminated by sunlight, making one feel refreshed. "The little fishes along the way told me that they saw you heading this way. I did not believe them. I did not expect it to really be the great messenger. I must tell my sister. If she knows that you are here, she will be very, very happy." Gu Mengmeng looked at the big boy in front of her and her heart warmed up. When she first saw him, he was as pathetic as an abandoned puppy. He had poked half his head out from the well in Saint Nazaire and asked her pitifully if she could let him enter Saint Nazaire's territory. A mere second-level orc actually dared to start a war with Leah in the territory of land beasts, almost causing Leah to block that well to death. That tiny him was now a head taller than Gu Mengmeng. When Gu Mengmeng looked at him, she could no longer lower her head to look at him like she was looking at a child. Only then did he realize that Gu Mengmeng had been very busy these few years and had not seen Fei Rui for a long time. Twice a year, he would bring the sea tribes to deliver salt and food to Saint Nazaire, but the time Gu Mengmeng spent in Saint Nazaire was decreasing, to the extent that she had not seen him for a long time. But even so, he never stopped running between the two places once or twice a year. Because he remembered Gu Mengmeng mentioning that he was the Prince of Bridges and also a tribesman of Saint Nazaire. Gu Mengmeng and the rest set up camp by the seaside and met Melinda and Carter that night. Melinda's signature curly hair made her look even more alluring under the moonlight. Carter had broken through the boundary of rank 3 after mating and was now the only rank 5 beast in the sea. He looked even more formidable than when they first met. The two of them, one tough and one gentle, looked exceptionally compatible when they stood together. Gu Mengmeng could not help but stare in a daze. There was a strange atmosphere between the two of them. They were clearly two independent individuals, but it was as if they were the most complete when they stood together. Chapter 1587. I missed you too. Gu Mengmeng smiled back. You are looking at the scenery, but you don't know that you are also the scenery in someone else's eyes. While Gu Mengmeng was admiring Melinda and Carter's compatibility, in Melinda's eyes, she saw the only two beast kings in this world standing beside a petite female. There was a saying that 2 tigers cannot share a mountain, but these 2 beast kings did not seem to be against each other at all. They had restrained their sharpness and only had gentle gazes, which were all focused on the petite human in the middle. As for that petite female, she had a quiet and elegant smile. Her belly was bulging but not bloated, and she exuded a gentle motherly radiance. It was not dazzling, but made one unable to shift their gaze away. Gu Mengmeng noticed that the pearl earrings on Melinda's ears had become a pair. She had accidentally discovered one among the food Fei Rui brought back, while the other, "Your earrings are very beautiful." Gu Meng Meng praised without holding back. Melinda blushed and lowered her head. She glanced at Carter and pouted sweetly. I told him to find a similar one and polish it, but he refused to listen. He stubbornly searched the entire ocean to find this one that looked exactly the same. You don't even know that just because he brought the children to search for pearls, many tribes thought that we were invading them. We fought many ridiculous battles. Children? Gu Meng Meng asked with a smile. Melinda blushed and nodded. Bridges is now the strongest tribe in the ocean world. Because of the name bestowed by the messenger of the beast deity and Carter, a 5th-level beast, holding down the fort, and the fact that we are not restricted by race, many members of the ocean tribes who lost their tribes came to seek shelter. These 3 years, we have also given birth to many children, so. Gu Meng Meng looked at Melinda's blissful smile and felt a sweetness in her heart. When she had first established the Bridges tribe, she had only wanted to give Melinda and Kate an opportunity. It was like planting a seed in the soil. Now that she saw that the seed had grown into a towering tree, she felt gratified. Melinda and Carter invited Gu Meng Meng and her family to the ocean, but Gu Meng Meng rejected them. Even if Elvis and Leah were beast kings now, the bottom of the sea was not a place where they could unleash their powers. She did not want them to worry, nor was she willing to risk the baby in her stomach, so she went straight to the point. The kiss of the ocean has returned to the ocean. Melinda nodded and said, yes, it is coincidentally within Bridges' territory. My brother has already sent someone to Saint Nazaire to deliver the news. Perhaps the messenger is still on the way, but you guys have already arrived. Gu Meng Meng smiled and nodded. Within your territory, that's great, I have something to ask of you. Please instruct me, great emissary, Melinda said. Gu Meng Meng instinctively looked at Carter before he replied, Melinda is the head of the household, I listened to her. Gu Meng Meng was suddenly enlightened. How could she have forgotten that in this world, only females had the right to speak? Don't even beast kings like Elvis and Leah listen to her, much less Carter. Chapter 1588. Melinda held Gu Meng Meng's hand and smiled sincerely and warmly. Have you forgotten, great messenger? Bridges is your affiliated tribe. Your words are like the will of God. We will never reject you. Gu Meng Meng shook her head. I am not giving orders as the messenger of the beast deity. I am asking for your help as a friend. Melinda did not understand the difference between the two. Gu Meng Meng was Gu Meng Meng, the messenger of the beast deity and her friend. No matter which identity she used, she was still Gu Meng Meng. As long as Gu Meng Meng said it, Melinda would not refuse. But she did not try to defend herself. She just smiled and nodded. All right, as a friend, I will agree to your request. Gu Meng Meng's heart relaxed after the official matters were settled. On the first night, Gu Meng Meng stayed at the seaside. Melinda and Carter led the mermaid tribe back to the deep sea. Waves of mermaids started blowing bubbles, which gathered together to form a huge bubble. Countless mermaids worked hard for the entire night and finally completed it the next morning. A huge bubble covered the corals. The seawater was a vacuum and the bubble was filled with oxygen. This allowed Gu Meng Meng and the rest to move around freely in the sea. After preparing all these, Melinda returned to the shore and invited Gu Meng Meng into the sea. Melinda's hospitality was hard to reject. Gu Meng Meng thought that since she was revisiting an old place, it would be a pity if she did not enter the first stop to search for the 7 treasures. Since there was a solution now, Gu Meng Meng was naturally willing to go. Elvis and Leah had never gone into the deep sea before. The last time Gu Meng Meng came, little Shit had accompanied her. The two of them had been waiting by the shore. This was a rare opportunity, so they naturally had to accompany her. Melinda, Carter, and Pei Rui each blew a bubble the size of an astronaut's helmet over the heads of Gu Meng Meng and her family. Oriton looked rather pitiful without anyone to take care of him. Without an oxygen mask, he could not go into the water. But it was normal not to bring him along since it was a family trip. So he sat by the shore without any expression. He just watched Gu Meng Meng quietly, completely forgetting about him in her excitement. Anyway, it was not the first time. Oriton should be used to this kind of life. Aren't you going down? Pei Rui's large eyes shone with a clear light as she looked at Oriton timidly. Oriton looked at Gu Mengmeng. Seeing that she had heard Pei Rui's words, he turned around to look at her. When their gazes met, Gu Mengmeng smiled until her eyes curved into crescents. Why not? The seabed is so beautiful, let's go together. Oriton nodded his head expressionlessly, replying with a stiff yes. Pei Rui immediately blew a huge bubble over Oriton's head, then pushed him towards Gu Mengmeng's side. As he pushed, he said, "You are good at everything, just that your personality is too awkward. If you want to go, just say it. If you don't say it, who will know that you want to go?" Oriton turned his expressionless face to the side and said coldly, "I didn't say whether I wanted to go or not. She's the head of the family and I'm the guardian beast. I'm just following orders." Liar. Pei Rui's little nose was raised to the sky. He was no longer the little mermaid whose legs would cramp the moment he saw Oriton. After spending so many years together, he was already used to his zombie-like face. Moreover, he was very clear that although Oriton looked fierce, he was more loyal than anyone else. When he said that he would not let anyone bully him, he really did it. Aside from the topic. Chapter 1589. Although they did not spend much time together, Oriton would always inquire about Pei Rui's management in Saint Nazaire every time he returned. If anyone tried to bully Pei Rui, they would receive a stern warning from the big white cat. Due to Oriton's special status, no one in Saint Nazaire dared to provoke him, even if they were of a higher level than him. Moreover, there was a rumor that Gu Mengmeng wanted Oriton to take care of Pei Rui, so Pei Rui's status in Saint Nazaire was upgraded to that of a nameless member of the messenger's family. Of course, Gu Mengmeng did not know about all this. Even if she did, she would just laugh it off. Because she knew better than anyone that Oriton treated Pei Rui well because Pei Rui always brought him fresh and delicious seafood. After the group entered the water, the sea turtles that Melinda had arranged were already ready. The largest sea turtle was as big as a small yacht, with over 20 sea turtles on each side. They were lined up neatly from big to small. The smallest one was only the size of Gu Mengmeng's palm. It stretched its neck and tilted its head to look at Gu Mengmeng with a face full of curiosity. The back of a sea turtle is wider and it swims steadily. It's suitable for you to sit on. Melinda looked at Gu Mengmeng's stomach thoughtfully and smiled meaningfully. Gu Mengmeng placed one hand on her stomach and the other on Elvis's neck, allowing him to carry her onto the back of the sea turtle. Sitting steadily, Gu Mengmeng turned around and flashed a big smile at Melinda. "You don't say, this is my first time riding a sea turtle. In my memory, only Xuanzang had such treatment when he was retrieving scriptures from the West. Thanks to you, I can also experience the treatment of a senior monk from the Tang dynasty." Tap 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 tap. Baya Bayubiu, seeing that she was having fun, everyone's faces were full of smiles. The sea turtle warship swam steadily but not too slowly. Gu Mengmeng could feel the impact of the water current on her. If not for Elvis supporting her, she would have been washed away. Leah was afraid that she would be uncomfortable if the water current hit her too hard, so he sat in front of her and blocked the impact for her. Heading downwards, they quickly reached the giant space bubble that Melinda had prepared for Gu Mengmeng. The sea turtle stopped outside the bubble and Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng down from the back of the sea turtle, before stepping into the bubble. Melinda poked lightly and the bubble on Gu Mengmeng's head popped. Elvis, Leah, and Oriton did not need anyone's help. They stretched out their claws and popped the bubble. Although it was also the first time for the three males to enter the deep sea, they kept their cool and naturally would not express their curiosity like Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng opened her arms wide and took a deep breath. So the air at the bottom of the ocean smells like this. It's a little salty and has a faint smell of seaweed. I didn't experience this smell the last time I was here because I had the kiss of the beast deity. Luckily, I can make up for it this time. Yeah, if I ever return to the modern world, I will tell those perfume sellers that their sea breeze perfume is trash." Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. She actually wanted to return to the modern world, right? Even so, she still stayed for the sake of the two of them. Chapter 1590. Melinda held on to Gu Mengmeng's arm and said, "If you like it, you can stay here for a few more days. I will ask the mermaids to take turns blowing air into this place. I guarantee that you will have an endless supply of deep-sea air." All right." Gu Mengmeng agreed readily. After all, the arrangements for the kiss of the ocean required time and she had to stay here for a few days. Without water, the living corals quickly turned into dead corals. They no longer had the furry feeling they had when they were alive. Instead, they had a metallic luster and were as red as blood, giving off a luxurious vibe. Fortunately, this was the deep sea and it had not been overdeveloped by the modern world. So the corals were not considered precious items. Otherwise, Gu Mengmeng's heart would ache to see such a waste. The air bubble did not cover a large area, but there were 4 to 5 corals in total. Each of them was as tall as Elvis and had a thickness that 3 people could surround. Gu Mengmeng's eyes sparkled as she circled the corals. Melinda also followed Gu Mengmeng's gaze and sized up the corals. She really could not see anything different about them and could only ask, "What's wrong with these corals? Is there anything special about them?" Gu Mengmeng held onto the corals with one hand and supported her waist with the other. She tilted her head to look at Melinda and asked with a smile, "Melinda, do you have many of these corals in your ocean?" Melinda didn't understand, so she nodded. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her little hands together and asked again, "Then, can I break off some of them to make a string of beads?" Melinda thought Gu Mengmeng wanted to say something else. Was there a need to discuss such a small matter with her? Chuckling, Melinda held on to Gu Mengmeng's wrist and said, "Great messenger, how many times do I have to say it before you remember? This is your tribe and everything here belongs to you. You can break as many as you want, no one will care." "Really?" Gu Mengmeng grinned and said, "Then I won't stand on ceremony. I want to make a few more string of beads, one for myself and one for my daughter, and one for you and Sandy." "Me too." Melinda was elated. Previously, Carter had made an earring for her, and later on, Carter had made a second one for her to make a pair. There were many pearls in the deep sea, but she was the only one with such a pair. Now, even if many people did not recognize Carter, they would recognize the earrings on Melinda's ears. Once they saw this pair of earrings, they would know that they were from the messenger's tribe. Now that Gu Mengmeng wanted to make the bracelets and she also had a share, she was naturally very happy. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "We're good friends, of course we should share good things. You know what? Red coral is one of the 8 treasures of Buddhism. It can bring good luck to the wearer." "Buddhism?" Melinda asked curiously. Gu Mengmeng nodded. "Just like how you worship the beast deity, Buddhism is another kind of deity that the beast deity worships. I didn't believe it before, but after these few years, I have no choice but to believe it." Gu Mengmeng laughed at herself. The atheist Gu Mengmeng was now worshipped as the beast deity. This was really a resounding slap to her face. "Oh." Melinda's eyes lit up. The deity of the beast deity, how impressive was that? Chapter 1591. With his permission, Gu Mengmeng started to instruct Elvis and Bulai to break off the corals, then use their sharp claws to cut them into small pieces, before slowly grinding them into a round shape. Fei Rui's technique of spitting water needles had already been perfected. One by one, he accurately pierced a small hole in the center of each coral bead without any deviation. After the beads were all polished, the problem was how to string them together. On land, they could use vines to make a rope, but this kind of rope could not withstand the corrosion of seawater and would definitely break after a long time in the water. If they were to use hair, it would be too thin, ugly and hard to fix. Just as Gu Mengmeng was in a dilemma, Melinda gave a better suggestion. She said that there was a type of shellfish at the bottom of the sea. The flesh on the inside of the shell was coiled up, and after the flesh was removed, the tendons would be left. They were elastic and flexible, and could withstand the corrosion of seawater. The only problem was that this type of shellfish fed on venom. Usually, it would be used to capture poisonous fishes to eat, so it was highly toxic. Not to mention normal people, even a fifth-level mermaid like Carter would not go near it unless he had no other choice. If it was in the past, this matter was easy to handle. Gu Mengmeng had snake's tear of the beast deity on her, so she was immune to all poisons. A mere little shellfish could not do anything to her. But after Wang Xiaoxin left, all the special buffs on her had been reset. Not to mention poisonous shellfish, even a mosquito might be able to bite her to death. Risking her life for jewelry, Gu Mengmeng weighed the pros and cons and felt that it was not worth it. Leah held onto Gu Mengmeng's shoulders and smiled. Did you forget again, you have 2 omnipotent males? But it's poisonous. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Leah chuckled. It's been so many years, haven't you gotten used to the beast world style? Females just need to give orders. Males have to think of how to complete them. Gu Mengmeng still shook her head. I don't want my males to risk their lives for a piece of jewelry. Forget it, I'll think about whether there are any other alternatives. Leah sighed and placed both hands on Gu Mengmeng's shoulders. He lowered his head to accommodate her height and looked into her eyes. Have you forgotten who I am? You are Leah. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in confusion. What else? Leah asked with a smile. Gu Mengmeng blinked her eyes and said, Anne. Leah sighed and said, all right, one pregnancy makes one foolish for 3 years, seeing that you went offline because of my intelligence, I will kindly remind you. I am the most talented witch doctor in history. Detoxification is my specialty. Huh? Gu Mengmeng tilted her head, looking confused and innocent. Leah smiled as he tapped Gu Mengmeng's little nose. I'll be sad if you don't trust me when you're in trouble. It feels like a hero has no place to use his skills. How miserable. Gu Mengmeng burst out laughing and said, it's not that exaggerated. I just can't bear to see you and Elvis get hurt. Leah kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, your reluctance certainly makes me feel warm, but Gu Mengmeng, I urgently need to show you my abilities, I look forward to you relying on me. Chapter 1592. Yes, my queen. Leah kissed the back of Gu Mengmeng's hand teasingly before turning to leave like an elegant knight. Melinda was afraid that something would happen to Leah, so she asked Carter to personally bring some men to accompany Leah to retrieve the poisonous shellfish meat. Meanwhile, Melinda stayed at the coral dock to prepare a welcoming banquet for Gu Mengmeng. After all, this was the first time the messenger of the beast deity, the true leader of the Bridges tribe, had arrived at the bottom of the ocean after the establishment of the Bridges tribe. Naturally, they had to celebrate and at the same time, show the strength of the tribe to the messenger. They hoped that the Bridges tribe was not only the messenger's tribe, but also the messenger's pride. Gu Mengmeng naturally had to attend the banquet, but the air at the bottom of the ocean was limited and not suitable for a bonfire. So to heighten the atmosphere, Melinda used large seashells to place many luminous pearls around the banquet. They were arranged in picturesque disorder, like a small mountain of luminous pearls. It was extremely extravagant, the entire banquet was filled with the sour stench of extravagance. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was the only one emitting the fragrance of poverty. Sigh, she had been the messenger of the beast deity once, and now she was the beast deity again. Gu Mengmeng felt that she was probably the kind of person who could leave her name in history. Others were at most uncorrupted, but Gu Mengmeng was so uncorrupted that she did not even have any sleeves. Yeah, she must take the coral beads this time. She must give Elvis and Leah one each. She could not be the messenger of the beast deity for nothing. It sounded impressive, but she had suffered so much that she almost lost her life. She would be letting herself down if she did not get some mental damage compensation. Thinking of this, Gu Mengmeng secretly ground her teeth. Elvis moved closer to Gu Mengmeng's ear and blew gently. He pointed at the luminous pearls in the seashells and asked, "Do you want one?" Gu Meng Meng nodded without hesitation. Snakel did not say anything else and went up to grab a handful and stuffed it into Gu Meng Meng's hands. "Here, take it and play with it." Gu Meng Meng instinctively looked around. Seeing that no one had seen them, she hurriedly put the luminous pearls back and said softly, "This does not belong to us. It's not good to take it just like that. Didn't Melinda say that this is your tribe and everything here belongs to you? You can take whatever you want, there's nothing wrong with that." Elvis paused for a moment, then continued, "If anyone has any objections, ask them to look for me. If you're not convinced, you can challenge me. If you win against Leah and me, you can snatch this stupid thing back." Gu Meng Meng was sweating. Elvis meant that if they gave it, they would give it. If not, they would snatch it, right? She poked Elvis and said, "He's a beast king after all. It's not good to bully others like this. There's nothing bad about snatching things from my female." Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng and grabbed another handful from the shell for her. "Take it if you like it. The rules here are different from your world. Survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. Power is the rule. Leah and I are powerful enough so we can set the rules and we will listen to you." Gu Meng Meng thought about it and felt that she should inform Melinda. After all, these things were taken out by Melinda and it would not be good for her to keep them without a word. So Gu Meng Meng pulled Melinda and asked, "Can you give me a few of these pearls?" Chapter 1593. Gu Meng Meng followed Melinda's finger and almost fell over. Damn, what a flirtatious walk. A row of mermaids and orcs with different hair colors, with a human body and a fish tail. Their bodies were well built and smooth, unlike land beasts with bulky muscles, but rather well-proportioned and slender muscles. The mermaid lines connected to the fish tail made one's blood boil and imagination run wild. Gu Meng Meng felt her nose heating up. She quickly pinched her nose and waved her hands at Melinda. Don't. A married woman cannot withstand such temptation. Please spare me." Elvis's face darkened the moment he saw Gu Meng Meng pinching her nose. The reason was simple. She would only do this when she was about to have a nosebleed. And she would only have a nosebleed when she was tempted. Even if he or Leah stripped her naked, she would not have a nosebleed. She would only have such a reaction when he and Bulai were entangled together in some ambiguous scene. So, this row of fish, haha, looks like it would be delicious if it was roasted. Gu Meng Meng had been glancing at Elvis the moment Melinda said she wanted to give Gu Meng Meng men. Naturally, she did not miss the murderous look in his eyes. She cupped Elvis's face with both hands and smiled. "Hubby, calm down, calm down. Look at my pregnant belly. Why would I have such thoughts? Don't worry, I only want the items. I don't want any of them." "Really?" Elvis lowered his eyes and stared at Gu Meng Meng coldly. Gu Meng Meng nodded firmly. "No. Definitely not." Elvis thought about it and snorted. "You also said you don't want Leah. You also said you don't want Snake. You also said you weren't interested in that bird man a while ago." Gu Meng Meng felt that she had indeed been slapping herself in the face. She held her cheeks with both hands and looked up at Elvis. "Hubby, my face hurts." Elvis was flushed by her cuteness and his lips could not help but curl up. He removed her little hands and pinched her chubby little face due to her pregnancy. "If you know your face hurts, then don't do it again." Yeah, I won't do it anymore," Gu Meng Meng promised. Elvis then kissed Gu Meng Meng in satisfaction. Then, he caressed Gu Meng Meng's tummy gently. "After you give birth to a daughter, Leah and I will definitely make it up to you." It was not an exaggeration to say that Gu Meng Meng's legs immediately gave way when Elvis said that. She wasn't the one who wanted a mermaid to be her new lover. She was innocent. She was framed by Melinda, sob, "I feel so wronged, but I can't explain myself." Seeing how Gu Nanbao was biting her handkerchief pitifully, Elvis's mood finally improved. He looked at the mermaid coldly and snorted without saying a word. He walked slowly to the main seat and sat down steadily. Carrying Gu Mengmeng in his arms, he sat in the most comfortable position for her to sit on as a human skin thermostatic chair. Intentionally or unintentionally, he played with Gu Mengmeng's long hair. That lazy and casual look made him look like King Zhou of Shang, who was carrying Daji to court. Everything was ready. Melinda had no intention of waiting for Kate and Leah. After all, females were respected in the beast world. As long as she and Gu Mengmeng were present, the banquet could begin. The first performance was, of all things, that row of mermaids performing a dance. Chapter 1594. Elvis's eyes were still looking down at Gu Mengmeng. The redder her face became, the darker his face became. Gu Mengmeng only retracted her gaze obediently when she heard the sound of teeth grinding above her head. She buried her entire face into Elvis's chest. Actually, she did not have the intention to take in a new partner, but since he danced so hard, wouldn't it be a waste if she did not watch? But it would not be good to cause some family conflict just to feast her eyes, right? Even if a young man in the modern world wanted to peek at a lady, he would not dare to do it in front of his wife, right? Gu Mengmeng's little act of burying her face really pleased Elvis. The malevolence on his face disappeared instantly, and he only felt that this ostrich was so adorable. So he lifted her little chin and kissed her deeply on the lips. Acting as if there was no one else around, they were deeply entangled. He kissed until Gu Mengmeng's whole body went limp and was almost out of breath, before he released her reluctantly. He used his thumb to gently wipe away the remaining saliva at the side of her lips, gritting his teeth and saying, "I really can't wait. I can't wait for you to give birth to her today." Gu Mengmeng's face turned red because of the lack of oxygen. She pouted coquettishly and punched Elvis's chest, saying, "If I give birth today, it will be premature." Elvis choked and said with a serious expression, "That won't do. Leah said that you must be pregnant for a full month, or else it will not be good for you and your daughter." "You still know?" Gu Mengmeng glared at him. Gu Mengmeng could not be blamed for being pretentious, it was just that this brother's expression of desire was too obvious. She felt uncomfortable sitting on his lap. How many years had they been a married couple? Wasn't it just because she was pregnant that she could not have sex with him? Did he have to be so high profile and show how wronged he was in public for how long? Humph, all males in the world are the same, they are all animals that think with their lower bodies. Gu Mengmeng mumbled and stiffened her neck, not looking at Elvis anymore. Elvis shook his head helplessly and said, "Silly girl, this is a display of my love for you. If I don't get hard when I see you, then what will happen to your future happiness? Don't be angry, it will affect your daughter badly." Gu Mengmeng became even angrier upon hearing this. She turned her head and asked, "In your eyes, am I important or daughter important? Now that you have her, you don't care about me anymore? You're not afraid of my anger, but you're only concerned about whether your daughter will be affected? Elvis, doesn't your conscience hurt?" Leah had told Elvis before that it was normal for pregnant women to be unreasonable due to their fluctuating emotions. Moreover, in Elvis's eyes, when had Gu Mengmeng ever been wrong? She was angry. It was obvious that he had said something wrong. He was the one who was wrong, not her. Since he was in the wrong, Elvis naturally apologized with a good temper, coaxing and teasing her. But just when Elvis was apologizing to Gu Mengmeng, a mermaid swam over and stood in front of Gu Mengmeng, saying, "Mighty messenger, I am the third-level mermaid beast Jimmy. Can I invite you to swim in the sea with me? I know a place with a beautiful view." "I think you're dreaming too." Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Let's see if you have the ability to take my female away from my arms." Jimmy did not seem to be afraid of Elvis, who was the Beast King, at all. In other words, males were fearless when it came to courtship. Chapter 1595. The corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly, revealing a devilishly charming cold smile. "No, you are wrong. I am not stopping you, I am giving you a chance. Jimmy tilted his head and looked at Elvis, as if he did not understand what was going on. Elvis stood up and placed Gu Meng Meng on the seat. Then, he took an unknown fruit from the table and gave it to Gu Meng Meng. Xiao Meng, be good. Sit here and eat some melon and watch the show. Hubby. Gu Meng Meng felt that this was the ocean and not Elvis's home ground. It was better to avoid trouble. She could just reject Jimmy, there was no need to blow things up. But Elvis cupped the back of her head and planted a kiss on her forehead. Don't worry, it will be settled very soon. Gu Meng Meng was speechless. Elvis let go of Gu Meng Meng and took 2 long strides to stand in front of the mermaid beast. With this comparison, Gu Meng Meng realized that Elvis was much more muscular than Jimmy. His body proportions were also better and firmer. It was just that he was always hugging her every day and rarely had the chance to show his body in front of her. As a result, Gu Meng Meng had almost forgotten how stimulating it was when she looked at Elvis from afar. She really did not know the true face of Mount Lu. It was only because she was in this mountain. TSK TSK TSK, it was no wonder Elvis was angry just now. Hugging a mountain of gold and digging for potatoes, no one would be happy about who was the mountain of gold. While Gu Meng Meng was reflecting and criticizing herself, Elvis had already opened his mouth to speak. If you want to woo my female, shouldn't you first issue a challenge to me? Elvis lowered his head slightly. He did not need to release his pressure as the oppressive aura of a beast king completely enveloped Jimmy. Elvis chuckled. With the absolute confidence and calmness of a superior, he said calmly, "Isn't accepting your challenge giving you a chance? We are in the ocean," Jimmy reminded. Elvis nodded and chuckled. There is no reason to stop a male from protecting his female, no matter where or who he is facing. Jimmy nodded in agreement and said, "Okay. Since that's the case, let's compete in the ocean." This is not fair. Gu Meng Meng panicked and instinctively said, "Elvis is a land beast, he can't breathe in the sea, how can he compete?" Jimmy wanted to woo Gu Meng Meng and naturally would not go against her wishes. Whatever the female he liked said was right. "All right, let's compete here and not in the sea," Jimmy compromised without any principles. But Elvis did not appreciate it and said, "You don't have to give in to me, hubby." Hubby. Gu Meng Meng was rather worried. Elvis stretched his neck left and right, then stretched out his long arms to hug Gu Meng Meng and kiss her. "It's all right, I'm suffering from internal heat and need a cold shower to calm down. Just eat your melon and watch the show." Gu Meng Meng wanted to say something more, but Elvis pecked her on the lips again. He squinted his eyes and gave her a reassuring smile. Feeling helpless, Gu Meng Meng could only sigh and return to her original spot without making a sound. She silently watched Elvis and Jimmy walk past the edge of the bubble and into the sea. The sea was the territory of the mermaids. Even though Elvis was powerful, he had a very important weakness, which was that he only had 1 breath left. Chapter 1596. Gu Meng Meng gritted her teeth in her heart, but maintained a faint smile on her face. If Elvis lost, how was she going to reject this Jimmy later? While Gu Meng Meng was plotting in her heart, Jimmy had already launched his attack on Elvis. Jimmy was a righteous mermaid and disdained using underhanded methods. Otherwise, he would have just lured Elvis far away and depleted his breath to win. There was no need for him to attack so hastily. Elvis replied with a cold smile. All is fair in war. Giving up one's advantage for the sake of so-called morality was not righteousness, it was stupidity. Elvis tried to move his fist. There was indeed a strong resistance in the water. Even if he swung his fist over, it would probably be useless. Thus, he gave up on the idea of a hand-to-hand fight and just stared coldly at Jimmy, waiting for his attack. Mermaids were extremely fast in the water. Even a beast king like Elvis could not see his movements clearly due to his limited vision in the water. However, vision was only a small factor in a battle. More importantly, it was the body's memory and instinctive sense of danger. So, when Jimmy's webbing was like a sharp knife aimed at Elvis's neck, Elvis's sharp claws were one step ahead of Jimmy and had already grasped Jimmy's throat firmly. Tilting his head and smiling, the beast pressure suddenly erupted, creating a huge ripple in the water. The ripple quickly pushed outwards, forming a powerful undercurrent, causing the scales of all the mermaids present to explode. That kind of fear was emitted from the depths of their bones, and could not be resisted. Jimmy was just a third-level beast and he was in such close proximity to the Beast King's pressure, so he naturally could not withstand it. His eyelids rolled back and he fainted, revealing his original form. Elvis was merciful, or else Jimmy would have been squashed into a fish meatball. It was not that Elvis had become merciful, it was just that Gu Meng Meng was pregnant and such a bloody and violent scene was not good for his daughter's prenatal education. She was a little female, as long as there was a beautiful fairy tale in the world, it would be fine. When Elvis carried the fainted Jimmy back into the bubble, the row of mermaids who were prepared to express their goodwill to Gu Meng Meng all sat upright and still, not daring to act coquettishly in front of Gu Meng Meng anymore. Elvis threw Jimmy in front of them and said calmly, "He doesn't look like he can take a beating, take good care of him." Yes. The mermaids understood that Elvis was indirectly expressing one word, scram. Thus, the row of mermaids carried Jimmy, who had transformed into his true form, out of the bubble. At the same time, Leo was walking back with a thick bunch of poisonous shellfish tendons. He looked at Jimmy's corpse and then at Elvis. The two of them exchanged glances and instantly understood what was going on with this row of mermaids. Leo mischievously tripped the mermaid beast in the middle with his tail. If they were in the water, nothing would have happened, but they were in a vacuum bubble. Hence, that mermaid stumbled and fell onto the people in front of him, bringing the people behind him with him. As a result, the entire row of mermaids fell out of the bubble in an extremely pathetic manner. It was a stark contrast to their cheerful appearance when they entered the bubble. Chapter 1597. Melinda lowered her head and smiled, replying to Carter using sound waves. She told him about Elvis's actions and concluded that even if she had the intention to make arrangements, those mermaids would have been scared out of their wits by Elvis. Who would dare to approach Gu Meng Meng? Gu Meng Meng also understood that Elvis's actions just now were not due to Jimmy's provocation. He was making an example out of her and using an instant kill to awe those mermaids who had their imaginations running wild. That was the only way to settle things once and for all. But this made the situation a little awkward. After all, Melinda had good intentions. So Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and said, after making arrangements for the kiss of the ocean, "I will be staying in the desert for a while. Sigh, the sandstorms there are strong and there's no water source. Just thinking about it makes me miserable." Melinda was not a fool. How could she not understand that Gu Meng Meng was giving her a way out? She was saying that she would not be living in the ocean forever and mermaids could not leave the water for long periods of time. So she would not take in ocean tribesmen as partners. This was considered a proper official statement. Melinda did not have any intention of currying favor with Gu Meng Meng. She just thought that mermaids were handsome and had a different style from land beasts. If Gu Meng Meng liked them, she would naturally be happy to see it happen. But from the looks of it, Elvis and Leo would not agree so easily. And Gu Meng Meng herself did not seem to have any intention of expanding her family. So she would not force it. The banquet was still going on, uninterrupted by this small incident. Singing and dancing to celebrate peace and prosperity made it feel like the immortality peach banquet in the heavens. After all, the mermaids were the only race in the beast world that knew music. Birds could also sing, but they did not know how to play musical instruments. They could only use their throats to produce sounds. But mermaids were different. They could produce different sounds by hitting different kinds of shells, corals, tortoise shells, and rocks. Finally, they produced a harmonious melody. Compared to a concert in the modern world, it was boring. But it was the most exciting performance Gu Meng Meng had seen in so many years in the beast world. Leah passed the shellfish tendon to Gu Meng Meng and whispered into her ear, "I have tested it. The tendon without flesh is not poisonous. What do you intend to do?" Gu Meng Meng took a piece of shellfish tendon and pulled it in her hand. It was very elastic, just a little too thin. Thus, Gu Mengmeng took 3 shellfish tendons and braided them into a braid. Then, she strung the red coral beads together, 18 red coral beads in one string. She tied a dead knot at the end of the string, then made a simple china knot on the basis of the dead knot. Below the china knot, she tied 2 pieces of scrap pieces of the red coral beads, and the red coral bracelet was completed. Gu Mengmeng wore the bracelet on her wrist and smiled at Elvis, asking, "Hubby, does it look good?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head dotingly and indulgently. "In my eyes, you look good no matter what." Tsk, glib tongue. Not a single word is true. As she said that, the corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips curled up. Elvis cupped Gu Mengmeng's little chin and looked straight into her eyes. The tenderness in his eyes was deeper than the ocean. He said seriously, word by word, "I have seen you crying in your most pathetic state. I have seen you in your most unkempt mourning. I know how irritated you are during your period. I also know how fragile you are when you feel sad for no reason. I have seen you at your best and at your ugliest. But regardless of beauty or ugliness, I like it all. As long as it's you, I can't move my eyes away." Aside from the topic, today's update has ended. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1598. Gu Mengmeng didn't answer Elvis and just pecked his chin sweetly. Then, she nestled in Elvis's arms and watched Melinda's performance as she knitted the bracelets. She wore the first one on her wrist, the second one for Elvis, the third one for Leah and the fourth one for Melinda. Gu Mengmeng finished knitting the remaining corals and shellfish tendons. There were still 7 left. 4 sons and the one in their tummies needed 5 bracelets. Sandy wanted 1 bracelet, there was still 1 left. Gu Mengmeng's gaze swept around and landed on Oratin's face. Although they did not have that kind of relationship, Oratin was still Gu Mengmeng's guardian beast in the eyes of outsiders. She had to at least maintain her image, so Gu Mengmeng gave the last bracelet to Oratin. Oratin was a straight man and did not have much interest in jewelry. He was more interested in the plate of meat in front of Gu Mengmeng. But as a male, he still had the bottom line. He really could not snatch a female's food. But Oratin did not mind, while Fei Rui liked it very much. His clear big eyes kept staring at the bracelet on Oratin's wrist. There was no lack of corals in the ocean, but the problem was that the poisonous shellfish was too difficult to obtain. He definitely could not get it by himself. And even if he got it, he did not know how to knit Gu Mengmeng's braids, nor did he know how to knit a china knot. So, the raw materials were all from the deep ocean. But as a prince of the ocean, he did not have such a bracelet. Sob sob sob, he really wanted it. Oratin looked at Fei Rui and raised his hand. "You want it?" Fei Rui nodded honestly. "Is it very obvious?" Oratin was expressionless. "Yeah, every time I see meat, it looks like this." Fei Rui smiled embarrassedly and did not reply. Oratin took off the coral bracelet from his wrist and handed it to Fei Rui. "This is for you." "Really?" Fei Rui's big eyes lit up. He looked at Oratin with admiration. But just as he was about to take it, he hesitated and lowered his head. "This is a gift from the great messenger. Everyone in your family has one. If you give me yours, I don't mind," Oratin answered honestly. He wasn't consoling her. As long as Leah cooked regularly, he really didn't care about anything else. Fei Rui still did not dare to take it, but he really wanted it. Hence, he jogged over to Gu Mengmeng and looked at her expectantly with a pair of eyes as clear as the stars in the sky. "Great messenger," Oratin said, "he is willing to give me that string of red corals. Can I have it?" Gu Mengmeng stared blankly at Fei Rui. Instead of answering, she asked, "I have already given it to Oratin. If he is willing to give it to you and you are willing to take it, just keep it." "Why are you asking me?" Fei Rui smiled awkwardly and said, "I was afraid that if I accepted that string of red corals, you would be angry with Oratin and not dote on him anymore." Gu Mengmeng almost choked on her saliva. She and Oriton were really just family in name, and Oriton probably did not need her pampering. In this family, the person he needed the most was probably Leah. Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng's gaze drifted towards Leah. Chapter 1599. So, when Gu Mengmeng looked at him and Oriton with that gaze, Lee's hair stood on end. He squinted his long and affectionate eyes and asked with a dangerous smile, "Xiao Mengmeng, what are you thinking about?" Gu Mengmeng felt like she had been caught in the act. She chuckled and shook her head to deny that she was not thinking about anything. After getting Gu Mengmeng's approval, Fei Rui happily received Oriton's red coral bracelet and wore it on his wrist. He happily showed it off to everyone and even pulled Melinda's hand to show it off for a long time. This made Carter extremely helpless and he could only clench his teeth and say, "You are Melinda's brother, I will tolerate you." That night, Gu Mengmeng stayed at the bottom of the sea. The next morning, Melinda, Carter and Fei Rui accompanied Gu Mengmeng to the location of the Kiss of the Ocean. If she was not sure that she was in the sea, Gu Mengmeng would have suspected that she was looking at a galaxy in the Milky Way. A black pearl floated in the center and the surroundings were filled with a layer of black poisonous fog. It looked like a Hollywood sci-fi movie where a galaxy was observed from a spaceship. However, the color was not dazzling and there was only dead black. There were many shells floating in the poisonous fog. The shells moved slowly, like the sloth lightning in Zootopia. They opened and closed slowly, as if they were eating the poisonous fog. Gu Mengmeng did not have Snake's tear of the beast deity to protect her and did not dare to get too close to the poisonous fog. She could only stay at a safe distance and pointed at the poisonous fog. "Leah, did you get the shellfish tendon from these shells yesterday?" Leah nodded in agreement. Gu Mengmeng rubbed her chin and thought seriously. "When I took the Kiss of the Ocean back then, it was in a huge shell. Do you think it was eaten by a poisonous shellfish like that?" Fei Rui secretly bit his lower lip and pulled Gu Mengmeng's arm. He shook his head and said, "No. No?" Gu Mengmeng was confused. Fei Rui took a deep breath and tilted his head at Gu Mengmeng. He smiled and said to Gu Mengmeng, "Do you know about the legend of the deep sea, great messenger?" There was another legend? Gu Mengmeng was now a little sensitive to the word legend. Back in the desert, Higgin told her a legend and then he died. In Moto, Grace had told her a legend, and then Grace had died. Now, Fei Rui was going to tell her a legend? Frowning, Gu Mengmeng asked instinctively, "Can I not listen?" Fei Rui chuckled and said, "Let's hear it." This legend is related to the Kiss of the Ocean. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed, that feeling of unease growing stronger. Fei Rui did not wait for Gu Mengmeng's reply and just sat on the back of the turtle beside her. He transformed his fishtail into his legs and hugged his knees obediently. He tilted his head to look at Gu Mengmeng and said, "Legend has it that this black pearl was not originally called the Kiss of the Ocean. It was just a poisonous pearl produced from these poisonous shellfish. Although it was poisonous, it was not to the extent that it could disperse in the ocean and not disperse." Chapter 1600. Fei Rui seemed to understand Gu Mengmeng's confusion and just grinned. His smile was always so clear and clean that whenever he smiled, it was as if the surrounding poisonous fog was purified. Fei Rui continued hugging his knees and looked at the black pearl in the middle of the poisonous fog. He took a deep breath before continuing. About 1,000 years ago, there was an extremely venomous snake that fell in love with a female. Gu Mengmeng was speechless and instantly immersed herself in the relationship between the characters. An extremely venomous snake, little shit. A female. Wang Xiaoxin. The characters in the legend were all familiar people. This setting really hindered one's interest in listening to the story. Forget it, what legend? I'll just treat it as gossip. But this female didn't love him. She even hated him, rejected him, and wanted to kill him. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. This version clearly did not match the truth. Gu Mengmeng did not forget the scene of Little Shit and Wang Xiaoxin reuniting. One said lovingly, "I hate you so much, why did you make me wait for so long?" The other said affectionately, "Sorry, I came back late." Putting aside the fact that Wang Xiaoxin had plotted for 1,000 years in order to resurrect Little Shit, she had lured her to search for the 7 treasures step by step, and even sacrificed her own son. Just based on these 2 sentences alone, it was filled with the stench of adultery. Even if it was not love enough to shatter the heavens and earth, it should be unforgettable. How could it not be love, or even hatred? This was not logical, really not logical. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. "Did you remember wrongly?" Fei Rui looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion. He shook his head seriously. There are not many legends in the deep sea, especially when the mermaid tribe has been the guardian of the kiss of the ocean for generations. So I will definitely not remember this legend wrongly. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips. She could not figure it out no matter how hard she thought about it. She could only raise her hand. "All right, continue." "I will listen." Fei Rui nodded. Although the female was very resistant, that snake beast was unusually overbearing and unreasonable. He was also very powerful and unpredictable. In order to prevent the female's mate from finding her, he tied her up and hid her in the deep sea. As Fei Rui spoke, he turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. "The method that Melinda made for you was passed down from 1,000 years ago. At that time, the snake beast also made a bubble like this for the female so that she could move and breathe freely in the deep sea." Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly. Free movement and breathing? Within a limited area, he could move and breathe freely while being watched. What kind of freedom was that? Let's call it jail. Moreover, with such a depth, there was no chance of escaping. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and thought to herself, it was no wonder that Little Shit hated Wang Xiaoxin like that. The snake beast said that when the female is willing to mate with him, he will release the female. However, that female really rejected him. No matter what he did, she refused to mate with him. The more he pressured her, the more she resisted, just to escape. Then, in order to escape, the female accepted a mermaid. Fei Rui's eyes dimmed as he said this. Chapter 1601. Fei Rui shook his head lightly, indicating that he was fine. Then, he asked Gu Mengmeng, "If it was you, would you accept someone you don't like just to escape?" Gu Mengmeng really wanted to shake her head and say no. If it was 5 years ago, when she first came to the beast world, she might have said that. But what she had experienced in the past 5 years had taught Gu Mengmeng to lower her head to reality. Imagine, what if Cole had imprisoned her and forced her to mate with him? In order to escape and meet up with Elvis and Leah on land, Gu Mengmeng would definitely agree to mate with a certain mermaid. Not to mention that she would rather die than submit. Her life was still tied to Elvis and Lee's, and she was pregnant with a little one. If she died, Elvis and Leah would definitely suffer more than death. They would go crazy and destroy the entire beast world, including themselves. And Gu Mengmeng would never let that happen. So, the answer was obvious. Gu Mengmeng would definitely agree to accept a mermaid as a partner in order to escape. Although she was hesitant, Gu Mengmeng still nodded and said, "If it was me, I would have done the same." She could feel Elvis tightening his arms around her. She turned back to look at Elvis. Elvis's expression was solemn, as if he was hesitating for a long time, before saying casually, "You did the right thing." Gu Mengmeng leaned into Elvis's arms and laughed softly, saying, "But this kind of situation will not happen to us anymore. You and Leah are both beast kings, there is almost no chance of success to kidnap me under your watch." Fei Rui smiled and did not expose Gu Mengmeng's words. Actually, as long as they did not care about the consequences, it was still possible. For example, they were at the bottom of the sea now. Even if Elvis and Leah were beast kings, they would not be able to unleash their full potential in such a deep sea. They just had to burst their oxygen bubble and they could easily kidnap Gu Mengmeng. But in the deep sea now, the mermaids were all loyal to Gu Meng Meng. No matter how much they wanted to mate with Gu Meng Meng, they would not use such an extreme method. This was the fundamental difference between mermaids and snake beasts. Fei Rui knew that with Gu Meng Meng and Li's intelligence, it was impossible for them not to have thought of this possibility. But they had given the mermaid absolute trust, which was why they dared to follow them down to such a dangerous place. This trust was extremely precious, and the entire mermaid clan treasured it very much. Naturally, they would not do anything that would harm this trust. Since he didn't know how to do it, why would he say those words that would cause discord? Fei Rui withdrew his gaze and continued to look at the kiss of the ocean. The female isn't running away blindly. Although she's in the deep sea, she's able to communicate with the outside world through the mermaid. Her partner found the beach and started fighting with the snake beast. He fought with no regard for his own life, and the mermaid took the opportunity to take her away. Gu Meng Meng rested her chin on her hand as she listened to the story. Although Fei Rui only mentioned it casually, Gu Meng Meng was still shaken to the core. Little Shit's strength was already at the level of a demigod. What kind of price did Wang Xiaoxin's other partners have to pay to entangle him on the shore and give her a chance to escape? Just thinking about it made Gu Meng Meng shiver. Chapter 1602. The female managed to escape to the shore, but the mermaid could not leave with her. Fei Rui continued, because once on land, the mermaid would not have any advantage in battle. Not only could he not protect her, he might even be a burden to her. He could not waste the chance to escape that she had paid such a huge price for, so the mermaid decided to let the female leave by herself, while he returned to the sea to help her stall the snake beast, to fight for a chance of survival for her partners. Even if only one of her partners could leave this place alive, it would be a precious blessing to her. Gu Meng Meng caught an important point, which was that Wang Xiaoxin had agreed to mate with the mermaid, but this promise was not fulfilled in time, and the two of them were separated. In other words, the mermaid could not break through the level limit, and could at most reach the third level. A third-level orc challenging a demigod-level snake beast, calling it a challenge was an exaggeration, it was practically suicide. With Little Shit's fighting style, one whip of the snake beast's tail could directly turn him into a fishball. The mermaid was obviously not the snake beast's match, but he still managed to stall the snake beast. Because he told the snake beast, he stole the female when the snake beast was not around, and only he knew where the female was hidden. Fei Rui turned to look at Gu Meng Meng. Isn't this lie very clumsy? If he really stole the female, why did he come back and walk right into the trap? Isn't running away the most logical choice? But perhaps it was because the mermaid tribe was simple and did not know how to lie, or perhaps it was because the snake beast was in a frenzy and could not differentiate the truth from the lies. Anyway, the mermaid's lie successfully attracted the snake beast's pursuit, and in order to fight for more chances for her partners to escape, he kept swimming deeper into the sea. Indeed, the mermaid had an advantage in speed in the sea, but this advantage only existed when the difference in power between the two parties was not too great. If Little Shit was only a third-level or fourth-level beast, the mermaid's strategy could have succeeded. But Little Shit was a demigod-level beast in the past. Such a huge difference in level was enough to surpass the advantage of a race. Moreover, Little Shit was not an ordinary land beast, he was also considered to be his domain in the water. The mermaid was dreaming if he wanted to fight for time by swimming in front of Little Shit. Indeed, Fei Rui continued, unfortunately, the mermaid was caught by the snake beast before he could run very far. However, the snake beast did not kill him. Instead, it hung him and the other partners of the female upside down on the shore, forcing the female to go back by herself. The female did not run far from the start. She had been lurking nearby. When she saw that her partner and the mermaid were captured and that their lives were in danger, she finally took the initiative to appear in front of the snake beast. Gu Meng Meng had guessed it. Although Wang Xiaoxin was frighteningly rational, he was at least not a selfish person who did not care about the lives of others, especially those who were caught. They were her partners. Fei Rui was silent for a moment before he continued, the female ate the black pearl with the snake beast's venom. She needs the snake beast to detoxify her every day, or she will die from the poison. In exchange for the safety of their partners. The snake beast did not imprison the female at the bottom of the sea. Instead, he allowed her to stay on land with her partners. However, she had to go to his side every sunset to detoxify him. Chapter 1603. He obtained an ancient secret recipe from the elders of the ocean tribe. There is no antidote for the poisonous shellfish pearl, and he can only exchange his life for hers. As Fei Rui said, he pointed at the black pearl floating in the poisonous fog and said, "It was born in the poisonous shellfish, grew up in the poisonous shellfish and belongs to the poisonous shellfish. If he wants to save that female, the only way is to eat the poisonous shellfish king and then kiss the female. Mouth to mouth, he will suck the black pearl into his body." Gu Mengmeng frowned and did not say a word. The males in the beast world were not afraid of death for the person they liked. They were brave and blind in love and would never be stingy with their lives. She could even imagine how overjoyed the mermaid would be when he found out about this antidote method. His entire mind was filled with the thought that Wang Xiaoxin could be saved, and he did not have the slightest bit of rationality to think about how he would lose his life. The mermaid swallowed the entire poisonous shellfish king and swam towards the shore with all his might before the poison attacked his heart. Finally, he saw the female who was about to meet the snake beast under the afterglow of the setting sun. The poisonous shellfish king was stuck in his throat and his vocal cords were already destroyed, so he could not make any sound. He could only use his tail to slap the surface of the water to attract the female's attention. Even though the poison of the poisonous shellfish king made his skin burn in pain, he did not care and just slapped the surface of the water with all his might, splashing countless waves. Finally, he successfully attracted the female's attention. The female ran to the beach and asked him what was wrong. He could not speak and could only hold the female tightly and kiss her lips. At this point, Fei Rui turned around to look at Gu Mengmeng. His eyes shone with a light that seemed like he understood, as if he was longing for it, but also as if it was just an ignorant fantasy. He said, "It was said that the scene at that moment was frozen. It was so beautiful that even the waves could not bear to attack their kiss. That was the most peaceful moment in the history of the ocean, without any waves. The setting sun gilded them with the most beautiful glow, just like a pair of gentle hands, gently protecting their first kiss, once in a lifetime, the only kiss." The poisonous pearl in the female's body was sucked into the mermaid's body by the poisonous shellfish king. The two poisons caused the mermaid's skin to start festering. He used the last of his strength to push the female away and told her that she was free and the snake beast could no longer use this pearl to threaten her. As for the mermaids, they threw themselves into the sea, sacrificed their broken bodies to the beast god, and stayed in the sea forever. Gu Mengmeng finally understood that the shell that she had casually touched previously was actually the poisonous shellfish king that was stuck in the mermaid's throat. There are people who are infatuated with love in the world. This hatred has nothing to do with the wind and the moon. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head and murmured softly. She smiled. Our previous beast messenger really has no lack of Casanova. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng and kissed the top of her head. You don't lack anyone by your side either. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head. Of course she knew that she did not lack Casanova by her side. Snake, who had died twice for her, wasn't that the greatest love saint? There was also that Grace who tore off her own wings and jumped into the volcano lava for her. Glancing sideways, Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and Leah. Both of you, you must accompany me well. Don't try to be a Casanova, understand? Chapter 1604. Fei Rui nodded with a smile, then opened his mouth. This action made Gu Mengmeng break out in cold sweat. She frowned and her eyes widened in shock. She held on to Fei Rui's shoulders tightly with both hands. What did you do? Fei Rui was still smiling. His eyes were as bright as the stars, clearer than the ocean and more flawless than the moonlight. I am the Prince of Bridges, and also a tribesman of Saint Nazaire. Fay Roy smiled as he spoke. But the blood trickling down from the corner of his lips stung Gu Mengmeng's eyes. Fay Roy's bright smile was tainted with a heart-wrenching pain. Moreover, I like the great messenger the most. I want to protect the deep sea line, and also, the great messenger. Gu Mengmeng shook her head. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she reached for Fay Roy's throat, wanting him to spit out the poisonous shellfish king. But Fay Roy grabbed Gu Mengmeng's hand and left a mark on the back of her hand. Then, he smiled at Gu Mengmeng. Great messenger, don't be sad. My death can protect the entire ocean. It is my honor. After saying that, Fay Roy leaned back and charged into the poisonous mist. That pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars were smiling the entire time, looking at the crowd not far away. His most precious sister was there. But his brother-in-law was really reliable. He would protect Melinda well, so there was no need to worry. His most important friend was there. But Lee's cooking was so delicious, Oriton should be living a blissful life. His most beloved great messenger was there. Oh no, the great messenger was crying. But it was all right. Her partner was so strong and loved her so much. He would definitely be able to coax her. Sorry, great messenger, I didn't want you to cry. But, I still feel very blessed to have all of you send me off on my last journey. Forgive me for my selfishness. I really don't have the courage to complete my last journey alone. Finally, thank you, for listening to my long story. Fay Roy dispersed the poisonous fog. He turned around in front of the kiss of the ocean and swallowed it into his stomach. He could feel that the poisonous pearl was corroding his throat along his chest, slowly moving downwards. Great, it was sucked into the shell by the poisonous shellfish king. Fay Roy heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he slowly closed his eyes. It was as if the Milky Way in the night sky had disappeared. There was not a single star left. Fay Roy. Gu Mengmeng felt a burning sensation in her chest. She screamed at the top of her lungs as if it was tearing her entire chest apart. How could this be? Why would Fay Roy do something so unexpected? Yesterday, he was still acting coquettishly towards her, asking her if he could accept the bracelet Oriton gave him, but today, Melinda stepped forward and held Gu Mengmeng's wrist. Her eyes were red but she tried her best to smile. She said to Gu Mengmeng, "Great messenger, don't cry. Brother has long decided to do this. This is his mission. He is honorable and not tragic. Did you already decide to do this?" Gu Mengmeng looked at Melinda with reddened eyes. Melinda nodded and replied, "Ever since the day the kiss of the ocean reappeared in the deep sea, brother has been preparing for this." "Then why didn't you stop him?" Gu Mengmeng didn't want to blame Melinda because she knew that Melinda would be the most upset about Fay Roy's death. But she couldn't help it. You're tuning into the Dreamy Love Stories YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.